G'day guys, so it's 20 here and welcome back to Bordertown. In today's episode, I'm going to continue work on the downtown. We've been working on the downtown of Las Palmas for a little while now, and I'm going to continue work around here because I do just want to finish it up before moving on to some other areas. And you can see the downtown here, it's almost finished. I just want to draw your attention to the very left-hand side of the screen. So there's a whole bunch of buildings there. Now, they're just temporary. I've only placed them down there as pretty much just to get an idea of what I have in terms of assets and buildings and things like that. So then I can, rather than scrolling through all my assets in the search bar down below, I can just sort of go over there and see what I've got and just copy and paste them, and that's why they're there. And I actually end up deleting all them in the next episode because I've pretty much finished what I want the downtown to look like. And before I talk about everything that I'm going to be doing, I just want to quickly say that this is the second last episode of Bordertown for probably about a month or so, because as you're probably all very well aware of, I am bringing back my old series Springwood, and if I'm going to be working on Springwood, then I do have to sort of stop this for a little while because it's just impossible to have two series going at the same time. They just take up so much time, and switching between the two assets, because they obviously use different mods and assets in each save, it just takes forever. So I'm going to stop Bordertown just for a little while, I reckon for about a month or so, and then we'll focus on Springwood for quite a while, and then after that we'll jump back into Bordertown and work on some different areas. So next week's episode will be the last episode for a little while, and then we'll come back. So don't worry about that. And everyone who's been asking for Springwood, yeah, we're back, baby. I can't wait to show you what I've been up to. And today's episode, I am going to be making a custom bike path that's going to be pretty much alongside the roads. Now, I actually wanted to download something from the workshop that was similar to this, but I couldn't really find anything. And I actually found this bike path in Houston, and I wasn't actually going to make this path, but I really liked the idea of it, and I haven't built anything in terms of bike path or bike or cyclist sort of infrastructure in any of my series. This would be my first time really building a bike path, and I think it fits in something like Las Palmas. Actually, it just sort of fits in a city like this because this is a more modern city, and you know, working in cities like Springwood, because it's based in the 80s, they didn't really have bike paths like this. And yeah, I guess this is sort of the only series that I've really ever been able to sort of place something like this in. So I was pretty keen to do it, and hence the reason why I'm placing it in the downtown. And this is just a start of infrastructure like this for cyclists. I will be continuing this bike path that will probably snake its way around many different places around Las Palmas. I do plan to make a whole bunch of different cyclist paths, and I do want to make it pretty bike friendly. And the way that I do create it, it's kind of it's interesting. Let's just say that it's totally functional and it's pretty custom, and I'm pretty keen to show you how I get all that done. But what I've been up to so far is I've just been sort of shaping the downtown area, and you know, going with the same sort of formula of trying to make areas like plazas and little car parks and just little places for people to basically go shopping and have a break from probably their office jobs in some of these bigger places like this. But, you know, I always find it funny, and I only ever really notice this when I go to cities outside of Sydney or outside of Australia, or actually, to be honest, just whenever I go to a city, I always seem to go straight to the downtown areas to, you know, explore them. And when you sort of get there, where all the skyscrapers are and where you think the heart of the city is, it's usually just not very interesting, because I guess the downtowns are generally just plazas and big buildings. They never actually have any great shopping places, or they don't usually have any sights really to see. You know, mostly the skylines are what make that area so iconic, and you kind of need to see the skyline from afar. And of course there's exceptions, but I'm thinking about a lot of the places that I've been to. You know, even Sydney, I think that there's probably more interesting areas outside of what is I guess, the downtown of Sydney, and I generally don't really ever just visit the downtown of Sydney. You know, usually you kind of scoot around the outskirts of the downtown, and that's where the most interesting areas are. But that's just my opinion. To be honest, I do place down a couple of different buildings that are a little bit more on the smaller side of things, because I didn't want there just to be giant skyscrapers all throughout the downtown of Las Palmas. I did want there to be also some smaller commercial blocks that have probably been there for quite a long time, a little bit more on the historical side of things. So I will be placing a few of them down the track, but I did want to sort of stick with mostly plazas. And what you see me doing at the moment is trying to figure out how I'm going to create this bike path. Now, I grabbed this green decal, and this is just from the workshop. And the reason why I wanted to create my own custom one is because I wanted this bike path to sit alongside just one side of the road, and it's actually just a multi-lane bike path. And however, it sits on this side of the traffic, and these kind of bike paths are very common, but I didn't really see any of them on the workshop. Let me know if you have seen something like this in the workshop, because, you know, that would actually save me quite a lot of trouble. But I will end up probably downloading a bunch of different networks that are a bit more of the bike path variety, and replace them a bit more around the city, because I do want this downtown to be pretty bike friendly. And to encourage people to ride their bike along this path, I've dragged a bike path through this road, so it's just hidden underneath it. And I've also banned people from riding their bikes on the footpaths, which means that people are more inclined to use the bike paths rather than being allowed to ride on the footpaths. And that way we should be seeing a lot more people riding along here, and you actually do, which is pretty cool. And I think I changed a couple of other policies to encourage people riding along these paths, and the really cool thing is it works pretty nicely, and you do see quite a bit of traffic on this path, which is pretty awesome. And this path is actually leading into what I want, the bit more of the historical industrial side of Las Palmas downtown area. And that whole area is probably going to have a whole bunch of different lofts and a bit more of a, I don't know, cafe / abandoned industrial area vibe to it, which I think probably best suits a bike path. So that's going to creep on into that area, which is going to be a pretty bike friendly area too. And I've pretty much moved on from the bike path now, and I'm just working on just developing some more of these plazas that sit underneath these bigger buildings. So this one's just a custom one that I've created, and I've done that using the concrete networks and also just placing down some different surfaces so that it makes it look a little bit more dirt. And luckily with what I have as the base theme for the ground, this great texture comes through when I use this surface, and I think it turns out pretty cool. So you know, just detailing with some trees and stuff like that. Somebody actually wrote a comment a couple of weeks ago and asked how I managed to keep my prop limit down, which is not true in Bordertown, but you know, how I managed to create such realism with only using, I guess, a few amount of props. Maybe that person asked me in Marble Mountain, but basically I try to only use mods and assets that are really versatile. So for instance, this network that I've just used is this concrete wall network is so versatile. This is I use this for fences, I use it for retaining walls, and I also use it for planters, and I also sometimes use it for just the little curb you see on the edge of a road, and it just works in so many different ways. And I'm actually in the process, so I've got a collection which is called my Essential Mods and Assets, and I created it probably about 1.5 years ago, and it's just chock-a-block full of assets and mods, and so many of them are outdated, and unfortunately I'm still subbed to it because I've created my Down Under series, Springwood, and now Bordertown using that collection. And the problem is now that I've already created those cities, I don't really want to unsub from that collection and lose a lot of the detail work that I might have used throughout this series. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm just clearing a lot of those assets and creating a new essentials list, which I'm going to be using for, I guess, more future series on my channel and other cities that I do create. And I've already halved all my mods and assets because, you know, so many of them are just obsolete. They're basically unusable. There's new ones that are much more improved. So there's different assets that are just far better looking. And I'm also subbed to, you know, very much the same type of asset. So I have so many wooden fences, it's just ridiculous. I only need one wooden fence. I don't need all the ones that I'm subbed to. And also a lot of the assets that I am subbed to, there's actually now vanilla versions of them, and I don't need the assets anymore that I've subbed to off the workshop. So I really just need a big cleanup. This is really cool what I'm working on. This is a custom McDonald's, and this is actually inspired by one that's in Sydney, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of them around. I know I've actually seen a whole bunch of these type of buildings, and basically it's a McDonald's that is just built into the like a bit more of a historical landmark of the city. And I thought this was like a cool little touch. It's just a very custom McDonald's, and I think it turned out really great. And yeah, I'm really glad that it sits in such an iconic and such a area that is going to receive quite a lot of attention. You know, there's pretty much a park opposite it, and there's no buildings blocking it, and that's sort of the reason why I chose that location for the McDonald's. I thought it might make a pretty cool spot. And now I'm just starting to work on some of the back streets of these blocks. So, you know, a lot of these blocks have car parks built into the back of them, and generally these back streets they're pretty old looking. They do need a bit of you know, revamping. And it's also around these back streets you find bars and cafes and graffiti and all that sort of cool stuff that a lot of these sort of places are starting to embrace the oldness of you know, the back streets. And I do place a little cafe or beer garden or whatever you want to imagine it is that will sit just near this car park, and I think that's a pretty cool area. And I will actually create a few more cafes in the next episode when I start figuring out what the light rail system looks like. You know, that's just a little hint into what next week's episode will look like. But you're probably also noticing that we are starting to move away from what El Paso looks like. This isn't a very great representation of what El Paso is. El Paso has got probably more of the smaller buildings, and definitely the type of architecture is quite a bit different to what I'm placing down. I don't know, you be the judge, let me know. I mean, I know a lot of people who watch this series actually live in El Paso, which is pretty cool, but there's just really not a great deal of assets, buildings that best represents what the downtown of El Paso looks like. I would have really loved to place down a bit more of like a Mexican sort of influence around this area, but I really just couldn't find too much that was suitable for this environment. And you know, there are actually quite a lot of Mexican sort of styled buildings, and actually even a lot of Italian buildings. I know they're not the same culture, but a lot of the Italian buildings on the workshop are quite similar to the ones you'd find around areas like this, but you know, the assets aren't, you know, particularly perfect, and some of them just best sits around other places in Las Palmas, which I will be working on a little later on. And this asset that I have placed down, you might have seen me place it down before, but this is a town hall, and I think this fits in really nice in this area. I think it's a great fit for, I guess, what the town hall in El Paso would look like. I don't know, I couldn't find it on Google Earth, but I also think that this is just a great looking asset, and it fits in with this area pretty well. And it even has a very similar color scheme to that building. I don't really know what that building is. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a vanilla building. It's on the left, and it even has a very similar color scheme to that, which kind of makes me think that they were built around the same time, and it might have some sort of connection to the town hall. So maybe there's some sort of thing going on between that. And I wanted the town hall naturally to be pretty close to the downtown, and I think it fits in pretty nicely being pretty close to this park as well, because generally these town halls are pretty close to some sort of park, and you know, I think that's a pretty good fit for this area. And it's pretty close to the downtown, to be honest. This is generally on the fringes of where most of the bigger buildings are. So I think this is a pretty cool looking asset. I think it fits in pretty nicely with the I guess, American theme as well. You be the judge of that, I'm not really quite sure. But I was pretty stuck with what to do in this car park. I didn't really know exactly what to do. I figured the car park would probably just be used for officials or people who, you know, generally worked at the town hall, and not just for your common person just paying a visit, or any of the tourists. I think it's generally just for people who work here. And there's also a car park at the back. It's a underground car park, and it came with the building, which is pretty cool. But I'm sure you can see me struggling with the shape of this and trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. The shape's pretty unusual, but you know, not everything has to be the most beautiful looking creation in a city. So many of cities just have ugly looking car parks or very weirdly shaped roads, and sometimes you just gotta go, you know what, that's what this is. This is just an ugly looking car park, and if you were walking around the car park in real life, you probably wouldn't even really notice because you're just looking at it from a, you know, different perspective. But you notice it's quite a lot when you jump into maps or Google Earth and you kind of go, oh, is that what that looks like? Because I thought that looked pretty nice down on the street level. And I think there's probably a lot of places like that in Las Palmas if you think that one of my creations look ugly. Just in case. But that's pretty much it for the episode. I had a lot of fun putting this one together. I think the custom bike lane turned out pretty cool, and you'll see in the cinematics a lot of people using it too, which is a great little touch. But if you have enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. That'd be fantastic, helps me out quite a lot. And your comments are just brilliant, guys. Keep them coming. I really do love reading what your opinion is, and any suggestions, hit me up, because we will be diving back into Bordertown. This series isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Having too much fun building it. There's still so much more I want to continue doing. But that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.